What's up, Stoic Warriors? Welcome back to Daily Stoic Insights, where we transform ancient wisdom into modern mental armor. I'm your host, and today we're about to shatter one of the most destructive patterns plaguing modern society: the desperate need to please everyone around you. But before we dive into these life-changing principles, I need you to do something right now. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because this content is going to fundamentally change how you see yourself and your relationships. And here's why this matters. Every person who subscribes helps us reach someone else who's trapped in the prison of people-pleasing. Your subscription literally saves lives by spreading this wisdom. Also, make sure to check the first pinned comment and the description below. I've put together a comprehensive guide that will accelerate your Stoic journey beyond what we can cover in this video alone. Now let me ask you something brutal. How many times this week did you say yes when every fiber of your being wanted to scream no? How many times did you bite your tongue, swallow your authentic opinion, or twist yourself into a pretzel just to avoid disappointing someone? If you're nodding your head right now, you're not alone. You're part of the 90% of people who have been conditioned to believe that your worth depends on other people's approval. But here's the thing. The ancient Stoics figured out over 2,000 years ago that this is the fastest path to misery and mental slavery. Today, we're going to explore 10 brutal Stoic laws that will completely obliterate your people-pleasing tendencies and unlock a level of mental freedom you've never experienced. These aren't feel-good platitudes. These are hardcore principles that require courage to implement. But I promise you this: if you have the guts to apply even half of what we discussed today, your life will never be the same. So comment below right now and tell me, what's the biggest way people-pleasing has held you back in your life? I read every single comment, and your story might help someone else break free from their chains. Are you ready to kill your people-pleasing forever? Let's dive in. The first and most fundamental Stoic law comes directly from Epictetus, a man who understood oppression better than most. Born a slave, he discovered the ultimate truth about human freedom. Some things are within our power, while others are not. Here's what's brutal about this law. You cannot control other people's opinions, reactions, or approval of you. Period. You can influence them, sure, but you cannot control them. And every moment you spend trying to control the uncontrollable is a moment you're living in mental slavery. Think about it. When you're people-pleasing, what are you really doing? You're attempting to manipulate and control how others perceive you. You're trying to guarantee their approval, their love, their acceptance. But here's the harsh reality. Even if you become the perfect people-pleaser, you still can't control whether they actually like you or not. I've seen people bend over backwards for years, sacrificing their dreams, their values, and their authentic selves, only to discover that the people they were trying to please never really respected them anyway. Why? Because deep down, everyone knows that a person without boundaries, without authentic opinions, without the courage to stand for something, is not someone worthy of genuine respect. So what can you control? Your thoughts, your choices, your responses, your values, and your actions. That's it. That's your entire kingdom. But it's also the only kingdom that matters. Here's your first brutal assignment. For the next 24 hours, every time you catch yourself trying to control someone else's opinion of you, stop immediately and ask, what can I actually control in this situation? Then focus 100% of your energy on that. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. This isn't just philosophical poetry. This is a practical instruction manual for mental freedom. When you truly internalize this law, something miraculous happens. You stop being a slave to other people's moods, opinions, and reactions. You become internally referenced instead of externally referenced. You become unshakable because your peace of mind no longer depends on variables outside your control. Comment below and tell me, what's one thing you've been trying to control that you need to let go of today? This second law is going to sting, but it's also going to liberate you in ways you can't imagine. Other people's opinions of you are literally none of your business. They belong to them, not to you. Epictetus taught his students, Remember that it is not enough to be hit or insulted to be harmed. You must believe that you are being harmed. If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. Here's what this means in practical terms. Someone can think you're stupid, ugly, worthless, or whatever else, and it has absolutely zero impact on your actual worth or your life, unless you give it that power. But here's where most people get trapped. They think they need to know what others think about them so they can fix it or manage it. This is like trying to control the weather by constantly checking the forecast. It's not only impossible, it's exhausting and pointless. I want you to imagine something right now. Imagine that everyone you know has opinions about you, some good, some bad, some completely wrong. Now imagine that you could never know what those opinions are. How would you live differently? What would you do? What risks would you take? What authentic parts of yourself would you express? That's the person you're supposed to be. That's who you are when you're not distorted by the funhouse mirror of other people's judgments. Seneca put it perfectly. Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. The end of your obsession with others' opinions is the beginning of your authentic life. Here's a practical exercise that will change your life. For 1 week, assume that everyone has an opinion about you, and assume that you'll never know what it is. Live as if other people's thoughts about you are completely invisible to you, because functionally, they should be. When you master this law, you'll discover something incredible. Most people are too busy worrying about what you think of them to spend much time judging you anyway. Everyone is trapped in the same prison of seeking approval, which means most of the judgment you're afraid of doesn't even exist. The brutal truth is this: you are not that important in other people's minds. And that's actually the most liberating news you'll ever hear. The third Stoic law cuts to the heart of what really matters. Your character is more important than your reputation. Your virtue is more valuable than their validation. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the ancient world, wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." But I want to expand on this. The best life is not to be like the crowd seeking approval. Here's the brutal reality about validation seeking. Every time you choose validation over virtue, you're training yourself to be weak. You're teaching your brain that external approval is more important than internal integrity. You're literally rewiring yourself for dependency and weakness. Think about the people you most admire, not the people you're trying to impress, but the people you genuinely respect and look up to. I guarantee you that none of them built their character by seeking approval. They built it by making hard choices, standing for their values, and doing the right thing even when it was unpopular. The Stoics identified 4 cardinal virtues: wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. Notice what's not on that list? Likability, popularity, being agreeable, getting approval. Wisdom means making decisions based on truth and reason, not on what will make people happy. Justice means treating people fairly and standing up for what's right, even when it's uncomfortable. Courage means facing your fears and doing what needs to be done, regardless of social pressure. Temperance means having self-control and not being swayed by every emotional wind that blows through your social circle. Here's your brutal choice. You can either be virtuous or you can be universally liked, but you cannot be both. People pleasers are, by definition, compromising their virtue in exchange for approval. They're selling their soul for social currency. But here's the beautiful paradox. When you choose virtue over validation, you actually become more attractive to the right people. Authentic, principled people are magnetic because they're so rare. When you stop trying to please everyone, you start attracting people who appreciate your genuine character. Seneca wrote, "The willing, destiny guides them. The unwilling, destiny drags them." When you choose virtue over validation, you're choosing to be guided by your highest self rather than dragged around by other people's expectations. Comment below, what's one area where you've been choosing validation over virtue? And how are you going to change that starting today? The 4th Stoic law addresses the root cause of all people-pleasing: misplaced desire. Epictetus taught that there are 3 disciplines of Stoicism, and the first is the discipline of desire, learning to want what happens rather than demanding that what you want should happen. Here's the brutal truth about people-pleasing. It's a form of addiction. You're addicted to the drug of approval, validation, and social acceptance. And like any addiction, it requires bigger and bigger hits to satisfy you, while simultaneously destroying your authentic self. When you're constantly seeking approval, you're essentially saying, "My happiness depends on you liking me." Do you realize how much power you're giving away with that statement? You're making other people responsible for your emotional state, which means you're living in a constant state of dependency and vulnerability. The discipline of desire teaches you to desire what is actually good for you, not what feels good in the moment. Getting someone's approval might feel good temporarily, but it's like eating candy for breakfast. It gives you a quick high followed by a crash, and it's ultimately destructive to your health. What should you desire instead? Desire to be authentic. Desire to have integrity. Desire to be courageous. Desire to grow and improve. Desire to contribute something meaningful to the world. These are desires that actually strengthen you rather than weaken you. Marcus Aurelius practiced this daily. He wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." He wasn't seeking approval from the Roman Senate or trying to be liked by every citizen. He was focused on being a good emperor, a good man, and a good philosopher. Here's a practical exercise. Make a list of all the things you currently desire from other people: their approval, their praise, their acceptance, their love. Now for each item on that list, ask yourself, how can I give this to myself instead? Want approval? Approve of yourself when you act with integrity. Want praise? Acknowledge your own growth and effort. Want acceptance? Accept yourself fully, flaws and all. Want love? Practice self-compassion and treat yourself with kindness. The discipline of desire isn't about wanting less. It's about wanting better. It's about upgrading your desires from weak, dependent ones to strong, self-sufficient ones. When you master this discipline, something incredible happens. You become internally abundant instead of internally needy. You start giving from overflow rather than seeking to fill a void. And paradoxically, this makes you infinitely more attractive to others because neediness repels while abundance attracts. The fifth Stoic law is perhaps the most brutal and most liberating. Remember that you will die. Memento Mori, remember death. And when you die, all the approval you sought, all the validation you craved, all the people you tried to please, none of it will matter. This isn't meant to be morbid. It's meant to be clarifying. Death is the ultimate perspective giver. When you truly internalize your mortality, the opinions of others shrink down to their proper size, which is almost nothing. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself of death, not to be depressed, but to be liberated. He wrote, "It is not death that a man should fear, but never beginning to live." And people-pleasing is a form of never beginning to live. It's existing in a state of constant performance, rather than authentic being. Think about someone you know who has died. Do you remember them for how much everyone liked them? Or do you remember them for who they authentically were, for the impact they made, for the way they lived their values? Here's the brutal question. If you died tomorrow, would people remember the real you, or would they remember the performance you put on to gain their approval? The Stoics practiced negative visualization, imagining loss to appreciate what you have. But they also practiced mortality meditation, imagining death to appreciate life. When you regularly contemplate your mortality, you realize that time is your most precious resource, and wasting it on seeking approval is the ultimate tragedy. Every moment you spend trying to please someone who doesn't matter is a moment stolen from living authentically, pursuing your goals, developing your character, and making a real impact. Seneca wrote, "Life is long enough if you know how to use it. But if you're spending your life seeking approval, you're not using it. You're squandering it." Here's your mortality check. Imagine you have exactly 1 year left to live. How would you spend it? What would you stop doing? What would you start doing? Who would you stop trying to please? What authentic parts of yourself would you finally express? Now here's the real question. Why are you waiting? You don't know if you have 1 year, 10 years, or 50 years left. But you know you don't have forever. So why are you living as if other people's approval is more important than your authentic life? The Romans had a tradition. When a general returned victorious from battle, he would parade through the streets while a slave whispered in his ear, "Remember, you are mortal." This kept him humble and focused on what truly mattered. I'm that slave whispering in your ear right now. Remember, you are mortal. Stop wasting your precious life seeking approval from people who won't even remember your name in 100 years. The sixth Stoic law gives you the ultimate perspective shift. Take the view from above. Marcus Aurelius regularly practiced this exercise, imagining himself looking down at his problems from a cosmic perspective. From space, your social anxieties look ridiculous. From the perspective of eternity, the approval you're seeking is meaningless. From the viewpoint of the universe, the people whose validation you crave are tiny specks on a tiny planet in an infinite cosmos. This isn't meant to make you feel insignificant. It's meant to make your problems feel appropriately sized. Most of what you worry about in terms of social approval is cosmically irrelevant. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Remember how brief life is, how vast the universe. What is the difference between 3 days and 3 generations in the context of eternity? If 3 generations don't matter in the cosmic scale, how much does it matter whether your coworker likes your presentation or whether your neighbor approves of your life choices?" Here's the brutal reality check. In 100 years, everyone who currently knows you will be dead. In 1,000 years, your entire civilization might be forgotten. In 1,000,000 years, your species might be extinct. In 1,000,000,000 years, your planet will be consumed by the sun. Does this make you feel hopeless? It shouldn't. It should make you feel liberated. If nothing you do for approval will matter in the long run, then you're free to focus on what actually does matter. Living authentically, developing your character, making a positive impact while you're here, and enjoying the brief, miraculous experience of being conscious in an unconscious universe. The view from above also reveals something else. Everyone else is just as small and temporary as you are. The people whose approval you seek are dealing with their own fears, insecurities, and mortality. They're not the gods you've made them out to be in your mind. They're fellow humans stumbling through existence, just like you. When you take the view from above regularly, you develop what the Stoics called cosmic perspective. You start to see your daily dramas for what they really are, temporary blips in an infinite universe. This doesn't make you apathetic. It makes you appropriately focused on what actually matters. Here's your cosmic reality check. You are a temporary arrangement of atoms that has somehow become conscious and capable of choice. You have maybe 80 years to experience this miracle. Are you really going to spend that time worried about whether people like you? Practice this daily. Imagine zooming out from your current situation, higher and higher, until you can see your entire life as a brief flash in cosmic time. From that perspective, what really matters? What deserves your energy and attention? What can you safely ignore? The view from above doesn't diminish your importance. It clarifies it. The seventh Stoic law introduces a concept that will revolutionize how you think about social approval: preferred indifference. The Stoics taught that most things we obsess over are neither truly good nor truly bad. They're indifferent. But some indifferents are preferred, like health, friendship, reputation, while others are dispreferred, like sickness, loneliness, bad reputation. Here's the key insight. Being liked is a preferred indifferent. It's nice to have, but it's not essential for your well-being or your virtue. It's not worth sacrificing your integrity to obtain, and it's not worth destroying your peace of mind to maintain. Think of it like this. Being liked is like having good weather. It's pleasant when it happens, but you don't control it, and you can live a good life regardless of whether you have it or not. You wouldn't sacrifice your values for good weather, so why would you sacrifice them for social approval? The problem with people pleasers is that they treat preferred indifference as if they were absolute goods. They act as if being liked is essential for survival, happiness, and self-worth. But this is a category error. It's like treating a luxury as a necessity. Epictetus taught his students to say, "I want to be liked, but I don't need to be liked." This subtle shift in language represents a massive shift in psychology. Want implies preference. Need implies desperation. When you understand that social approval is a preferred indifferent, You can pursue it without being enslaved by it. You can enjoy it when you have it without being devastated when you don't. You can work toward it without compromising your character for it. Here's the practical application. Start treating social approval like you treat good weather. Enjoy it when it happens, don't stress when it doesn't, and never let it determine your plans or your mood. This doesn't mean you should be antisocial or deliberately offensive. It means you should be appropriately attached to others' opinions. Care enough to be kind and respectful, but not so much that you lose yourself in the process. Marcus Aurelius demonstrated this perfectly. As emperor, he certainly preferred to be respected and liked by his subjects. It made governing easier. But he never compromised his principles to maintain popularity. He made difficult decisions based on virtue and wisdom, not on what would make him popular. The freedom that comes from treating approval as a preferred indifferent is extraordinary. You become like a skilled surfer who enjoys the waves, but doesn't need them to be perfect to have a good time. You can ride the wave of approval when it comes, and you can handle the calm waters when it doesn't. Comment below. What's one preferred indifferent you've been treating as a necessity in your life? The 8th Stoic law reveals the secret to unshakable confidence. Build an inner citadel. This is your internal fortress that no external force can penetrate. Not criticism, not rejection, not disapproval, not even hatred. Pierre had it, the great scholar of ancient philosophy, wrote extensively about this Stoic concept. Your inner citadel is the part of you that remains free regardless of external circumstances. It's your capacity to choose your response, maintain your values, and preserve your dignity no matter what others do or say. Here's what most people don't understand. You already have this citadel. The problem is that you've left the gates wide open and invited everyone else to set up camp inside. You've given other people access to your inner peace, your self-worth, and your emotional state. People pleasers have essentially outsourced their inner citadel to the crowd. They've made other people the guardians of their self-esteem, the arbiters of their worth, and the controllers of their happiness. This is like giving strangers the keys to your house, and then wondering why you don't feel safe. Building your inner citadel requires radical self-responsibility. You must take back control of your internal state and stop making other people responsible for how you feel about yourself. Here are the walls of your inner citadel. Wall 1, self-respect. You respect yourself regardless of whether others do. Your respect for yourself is non-negotiable and not up for vote. Wall 2, internal validation. You validate your own efforts, growth, and character. You don't need external confirmation to know your worth. Wall 3, value-based living. You live according to your principles, not according to what will make others happy. Your values are your constitution, and they cannot be amended by popular vote. Wall 4, emotional sovereignty. You take full responsibility for your emotional state. Others can influence your emotions, but they cannot control them without your permission. Wall 5, purpose-driven action. You act based on your mission and goals, not based on what will gain approval. Your purpose is your North Star, not other people's opinions. Seneca wrote, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end." The end of your emotional dependency on others is the beginning of your inner citadel. Here's your fortress-building exercise. For the next week, practice responding to every situation from your inner citadel. Before reacting to criticism, rejection, or approval, pause and ask, what would the strongest, most authentic version of myself do in this situation? When you have a strong inner citadel, something magical happens. You become unshakable but not unfeeling, strong but not rigid, independent but not isolated. You can engage with others from a place of strength rather than need, abundance rather than scarcity. The goal isn't to become a fortress that keeps everyone out. It's to become a fortress that's so strong you can safely let anyone in. The 9th Stoic law uses a counterintuitive technique to build mental resilience: negative visualization. This involves regularly imagining the loss of things you value, including social approval and relationships. Here's why this works for killing people-pleasing. When you regularly visualize losing someone's approval or friendship, you realize that you would survive it. In fact, you might even thrive without the burden of trying to maintain their validation. Seneca practiced this daily. He would imagine losing his wealth, his status, his friends, and even his life. Not to be pessimistic, but to be psychologically prepared and to appreciate what he had while he had it. For people pleasers, negative visualization is particularly powerful because it reveals the truth. Most of your fears about disapproval are worse in your imagination than they would be in reality. Try this exercise right now. Think of someone whose approval you desperately seek. Now imagine that tomorrow they completely disapprove of you. They think you're wrong about everything, they don't like your personality, and they want nothing to do with you. How would your life actually change? Would you lose your job? Would you become homeless? Would you lose your family? Would you lose your health? In most cases, the answer is no. You would feel hurt, disappointed, maybe embarrassed, but your actual life would continue largely unchanged. This realization is incredibly liberating. Most of what you're afraid of losing by being authentic isn't actually essential to your well-being. You're protecting things that don't need protection and sacrificing things that do. Negative visualization also helps you appreciate the approval you do have without being attached to it. When you regularly imagine losing someone's good opinion, you can enjoy it more fully when you have it, while simultaneously being prepared to lose it. The Stoics understood a profound truth. The anticipation of loss is usually worse than the actual loss. By practicing negative visualization, you're essentially inoculating yourself against the fear that keeps you trapped in people-pleasing patterns. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight." When you accept that approval can be lost, you're accepting the natural flow of life rather than fighting against it. Here's your negative visualization practice. Once a week, spend 10 minutes imagining that you've lost the approval of everyone you're currently trying to please. Really sit with that scenario. How would you live? What would you do differently? What would you stop doing? What would you start doing? Often, the life you imagine without their approval is actually more authentic and fulfilling than the life you're living while seeking it. This practice doesn't make you pessimistic. It makes you realistically optimistic. You become optimistic about your ability to handle whatever comes, rather than optimistically expecting that you can control what comes. The final and most advanced Stoic law is Amor Fati, love your fate. This means embracing everything that happens to you, including criticism, rejection, and disapproval, as necessary parts of your journey. Nietzsche, inspired by the Stoics, wrote, "My formula for greatness in a human being is Amor Fati, that one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity." For people pleasers, this is the ultimate liberation. What if the disapproval you're so afraid of is actually exactly what you need to become who you're meant to be? Think about it. Every time someone disapproves of your authentic self, they're giving you valuable information. They're showing you that they're not your people, that your values don't align, that you don't need to waste energy trying to please them. Criticism and rejection are not punishments, they're course corrections. They're the universe's way of steering you toward the people, opportunities, and experiences that are actually meant for you. Marcus Aurelius practiced Amor Fati daily. He wrote, "Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate associates you." Notice that he didn't say, "Love only the people who approve of you." He said, "Love the people fate associates you with, including those who challenge and criticize you." When you practice Amor Fati, you stop seeing disapproval as something to avoid and start seeing it as something to embrace as part of your growth. Every rejection becomes a redirection. Every criticism becomes a clarification. Every loss of approval becomes a gain in authenticity. Here's the paradox of Amor Fati. When you stop needing approval and start loving whatever response you get, you actually become more magnetic. People are drawn to those who are comfortable with themselves, who don't need validation, who can handle criticism with grace. This doesn't mean you become masochistic or seek out disapproval. It means you become psychologically flexible enough to handle whatever comes without losing your center. Your final assignment: For the next 30 days, practice saying, "I love my fate" every time you face criticism, rejection, or disapproval. Don't just say it, mean it. Look for the gift in every challenging social situation. Find the lesson in every loss of approval. When you master Amor Fati, you achieve the ultimate freedom. You become grateful for everything that happens, including the things that used to terrify you. This is the final death blow to people-pleasing. When you love your fate, you no longer need to control it. When you embrace whatever comes, you stop living in fear of what might come. Stoic warriors, we've just covered 10 brutal laws that will completely transform your relationship with approval-seeking. Let me recap these life-changing principles. Control what you can control, and let go of everything else. Other people's opinions are none of your business. Focus on your own character. Choose virtue over validation every single time. Master the discipline of desire. Want what strengthens you, not what weakens you. Remember death. It puts everything in perspective. Take the view from above. See your problems in cosmic context. Treat approval as a preferred indifferent, nice to have, not necessary to have. Build your inner citadel. Become unshakable from within. Practice negative visualization. Prepare for loss to appreciate what you have. Love your fate. Embrace everything that happens as part of your journey. These aren't just concepts to understand. They're practices to implement. The Stoics were practical philosophers. They didn't just think about wisdom, they lived it daily. Here's what I need you to do right now. First, smash that like button if this video has opened your eyes to the prison of people-pleasing. Your like tells YouTube to show this content to more people who desperately need to hear this message. Second, subscribe and hit the notification bell if you're ready to continue this journey of mental freedom. We're building a community of people who choose authenticity over approval, and your subscription helps us reach more people who need this wisdom. Third, comment below and tell me, which of these 10 laws hit you the hardest? Which one are you going to start implementing today? I read every comment, and your insights help other viewers on their journey. Fourth, check the pinned comment and the description below. I've put together additional resources that will accelerate your transformation beyond what we can cover in a single video. Finally, share this video with someone who needs to hear this message. You know, someone who's trapped in people-pleasing patterns. Your share could be the key that unlocks their mental freedom. Remember, every person who breaks free from people-pleasing makes the world a little more authentic, a little more courageous, and a little more real. You're not just changing your own life. You're contributing to a cultural shift toward genuine human connection. The ancient Stoics faced wars, plagues, political upheaval, and personal tragedies, yet they maintained their inner freedom through these principles. Your social anxieties and approval-seeking patterns are nothing compared to what they overcame. If they could do it, so can you. Your authentic life is waiting for you on the other side of your people-pleasing patterns. These 10 laws are your roadmap to mental freedom. The only question is, do you have the courage to follow them? Until next time, stay strong, stay authentic, and remember, you don't need anyone's permission to be yourself. This is Daily Stoic Insights, and I'll see you in the next video.